While the Seahawks sit at home and rest this weekend, watch all the other action on Wildcard weekend, we're not taking any days off. We don't take our foot off the gas just because our favorite team has a bye this week and isn't playing football. In fact, we step on the gas even harder. The Seahawks Syndicate now going weekly through the end of the playoffs. I'm Dan from Seahawks Forever. That's Brandon from the Hawks Nest, Bryce from the Hawks Eye, and Mookie Alexander from Field Goals. Guys, let me show you something that I think you're all going to enjoy. This is what it looked like at the end of it all. And Bryce even had to text me on Saturday night and tell me, hey, I guess I was wrong. I only predicted 13-4. Boys, how we feeling?
Feeling like
Doesn't
NFC
get better
West
than
champion.
this.
I mean, none of us saw it wrapping up like this, right? Or at least not prior to 4 or 5 weeks ago.
No, it was kind of bleak looking after the first Rams game because they were kind of compelled to run the table and they needed some other help. Well, they ran the damn table and they got some other help in the form of the Carolina Panthers, which I could do with one more favor from Carolina this weekend if you catch my drift. But yes, the way that they won it was so emphatic. It should have been by more. I don't care. You did it. And the silence you could hear at Levi's Stadium. Normally, you got a lot of fans from Seahawks fans going to Santa Clara every year, but not this case. There weren't as many 12 flags. You didn't hear the Seahawks chants as loudly this year. So it just made the quietness of that stadium all the more. It was so sweet to hear just the lack of noise from 49ers fans and how dispirited they sounded, really just after the interception by Drake Thomas. That was the dagger, unofficial dagger to their division hopes.
It is a really interesting aspect of postseason football. It's just harder for opposing fans to get the tickets. Sometimes you don't know who the opponent's going to be. Like right now, are there any, I would imagine any tickets being listed for sale right now are being bought by Seahawks fans because the opposing fans don't know if they're going to be here or not. And that's a quick turnaround to make those plans. You said they ran the table, and they ran the table by running the damn ball. Brandon, let's talk about that 49er win on Saturday. How good was it? How good did it feel to see that running game finally come together in exactly the way Mike McDonald told us it would all season long? He said, it's just a little thing here or there. It's going to come together. And it did.
Yeah, I think that sometimes you hear coach speak, and we certainly have been through this through the years, where they tell you something and you're like, yeah, this is like a politician telling me that this is what you're intending to do. It just sounds good. It's going to make for a good sound bite. And instead of actually being your methodology, your approach, where you're really wired to want to go. And part of where my faith has come in, I think much of the rest of the panel's faith has come into where the running game is going to be something we're not terribly worried about, in that we understood that this was going to probably be a bit of a process and take this time it's taken. And that you can see how not only in coach speak, but in practicality and how the running game has come into full bloom, that this is how it's all unfurled in this manner. And to have this for the playoffs, I don't have to tell any of you who have seen playoff football and how that plays to now have this in your back pocket and not be one of, well, I mean, we'll bust off a couple runs over the course of a game, but otherwise than that, it's -1, it's no gain, -2 yards. That stuff seems to be by and large removed, on top of finding a lot of success still with being explosive on top of it. So it's a running game that's going to help us immensely. It's necessary at this time of the year in a lot of ways. We'll be talking about a matchup here in the playoffs in this game this weekend that's going to be affected by this same kind of manner. So I love seeing it, but the fact that it's not happening just because, well, it just happened to kind of break up. No, it happened because I've made the comparison of like a pickaxe and a mine, and you're chipping away at that mine, and you're chipping away, you're knocking little rocks away, and then you finally hit that vein of gold. And that's really what I think that they have done here.
And Bryce, from a coach's perspective, and you coach offensive football, and I know we're both reading The Why Is Everything right now. I just picked it up again after a couple of weeks off. I'm about halfway through it now. So we're reading about the evolution of this scheme and how it came largely through the hands of Kyle Shanahan, but with some help from Sean McVay and all those other guys that cast the characters along the way. But being able to run the football when it comes to playoff football now, and this scheme specifically, like, for this offense to be fully realized and as dangerous as it can be in the playoffs against good teams, it's crucial, right?
Oh, 100% it is. It's so focused on, if you don't have a successful running game and a defense to go together, it can be hard to win. Like, you look at, I'll go back to the 2006 Indianapolis Colts teams. We had seen Peyton Manning and that group throw the ball, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark, like they shredded teams through the air. When they got into the playoffs, the one thing that surprised everybody was Joseph Adai and Dominique Rhodes being able to run the football. That got them back in the AFC Championship game versus New England at points. And then even in that Super Bowl down in Miami where it rained, you saw again, the run game was a factor. If you cannot run the football, you're going to struggle in the playoffs. And you look at Chiefs teams in the past few years with Mahomes that haven't had a comparable running game to go along with him. And that doesn't mean Patrick Mahomes being your leading rusher. It makes it harder to win football games. Philly wins football games last year in the Super Bowl. They run the ball. They play good defense. We've got a component of that now in a stellar elite defense. And it seems like our running game has teeth now and traction at the right time going into the playoffs where, again, as we all know it, we've all lived in the Pacific Northwest. It gets cold. It gets rainy. It gets windy. That is the whole purpose of having a ground game, and a good defense makes winning football games a lot easier in the playoffs.
Mookie, I'll ask for your thoughts on the 49ers game in a little bit of a different way, because this felt different than just winning a game you had to win to achieve the things that they achieved by getting this one. This felt like, I don't want to call it a changing of the guard, but Seattle dominated this game from start to finish. As has been mentioned, the score should have been more. We know that. But it never really felt like the 49ers had a chance to come back in this one, even after the fumble to begin the second half, that somehow we were able to recover. If they had recovered that, even if they had tied the game, I think we all felt like that defense probably would have kept that offense down, given us a chance to come back and win that game somehow, some way. But the mystique of the dominance and the intimidation factor the 49ers used to have over this franchise is gone now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is not the 42-13 equivalent back in 2012, where you could sense that the changing of the guard was slowly but surely happening, because it was still obviously super competitive in 2013. And then 2014 was the turning point where it was obvious Seattle and San Francisco were going separate ways. But it had elements of it in that the theme was the same. The trenches were decidedly in Seattle's favor. Now, when the Seahawks of Pete's days were able to finally break through against Harbaugh's 49ers teams, they ran the ball very well. Marshawn Lynch broke through an elite Niners run defense multiple times over. And then Colin Kaepernick was, he was just tearing everybody up, or most teams up, and he could not figure out Seattle pretty much ever. He really struggled to perform consistently well against the Seahawks defense, in part because Seattle's defensive line was whipping San Francisco's offensive line. So what do you get in this game? I know Trent Williams didn't play, but he's but one guy on a line of five. Brock Purdy had very little time to operate, and when he did have time to throw, where were the open receivers? They weren't there. So the pass rush was getting home repeatedly and frazzling Purdy and getting him off rhythm. On the other side of the ball, you have Kenneth Walker running for almost 100 yards, Zach Charbonnet chipping in 70-plus on the ground, and the game's only touchdown. They bullied the Niners. I know this is the same Niners front as years past, and obviously Bosa's been gone, but still, the whole premise of why Seattle struggled so badly against San Francisco in recent years is they've just gotten their asses kicked up and down the field at the line of scrimmage. And that was not the case in Santa Clara last week. That, to me, dictated everything. That Sam Darnold, for the most part, had time to throw, and Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet were able to not just get explosive runs, but they were able to get 5-6 yard gains here, the plays that keep you on schedule. I didn't pull up the stats, but I guarantee you that Seattle had more explosive runs just in this game than they probably did the last 3 or 4 seasons put together against the San Francisco defense. They've had that much of a struggle running the ball. And then you hold Christian McCaffrey to no explosive plays on the ground. 0, zip, nada, zilch. So it was as simple as that. Seattle looked like the better team, and they looked so much different in terms of how they approached this game offensively than on opening day. And I guess we should have expected that, but still, it was an ass whooping. And I'm not saying it's going to go the exact same way in a rematch if they play in the playoffs, but I think it's pretty clear that Seattle has the talent advantage. If not, at least they've caught up talent-wise against San Francisco.
Just to let you guys know, if you're just joining us, we are going to go weekly now throughout the rest of the playoffs. Tonight will be a little shorter than you're used to from the Syndicate. We tend to like to hang out for a while together because we like each other. We also all like to talk. We're going to try and finish this up by about 9 o'clock tonight. And so we've got some questions that we've got worked out that I want to get these guys' thoughts on, and then we'll get to your questions and answers. I see some of those comments starting to pile up. We will get to those after our initial round of conversations. I've got a question now that I'm going to throw, and we're going to go clockwise. We'll go with you, Brandon, next. And I want you guys to all answer this. The Achilles heel and then the best thing they have going for them. So give me the thing about this team that gives you the most confidence that they can win the whole damn thing this year. And then the one thing that gives you pause and makes you doubt that they can. Brandon, go first.
I think the thing that gets me that they're playing a brand of football that is timeless, and they're playing their best football and healthiest. If I can just kind of put all that together, that's just in my mind makes them a bit of a juggernaut heading in these playoffs, as you have teams that might have two of those three things, but not three of those three things, or one of those three things. And so I think that would be at the front of it, is that strength is such a great strength to have, because this is the ideal. This is how you draw it up, not to simply get the best record, not to get the best bye. But there's a lot of teams that run out of gas at this time of year, even getting that first round bye. I think we've seen that in Detroit, for instance, happen to them in the past. So to be in that position, to set this table up in that way, and then you use the word Achilles heel, which I think is a really good word to use, because like Achilles, who could go out there and be a badass and take everybody down, it's this one little small spot on the body that could be hit that can sort of upend it. And I certainly think that comes down to turnovers, not Sam Darnold, but turnovers. If you're walking into a playoffs and you're losing a battle 0-3 in a playoff game, like we've had at times this year and still yet won the game, I think that's probably a loss in the playoffs. You've got to find a way to at least draw the measure to even as far as the turnover battle goes. And that's all the way down the line to Sam and these guys with the fumbleitis stuff that's gone through this team at times.
Bryce, how about you?
Well, Brandon kind of took everything there in one swoop. So he leaves me not with a lot. This is where being in the middle of this kind of counterclockwise thing is just so unfair for me today with Mookie and Brandon on either side.
On Hollywood Squares, right?
I'm the worst square spot right now. But I'll go with this. So I think, the thing that gives me the most reason they can go, kind of to Brandon's point, you're running the ball well, but this defense this year has proved it can play against top offenses. It can hang with them. It can create pressure. It can create problems. The Achilles heel for me, and it's, I don't know how this will go over with everyone, is, in my opinion, Klint Kubiak in a way. And what I'll say about Klint—
I knew those were going to be the next two words out of your mouth.
and it's don't overthink it. Don't get outside of your box that works and what you're doing well. Like we've seen that time in and time out this season. There are points where he will try and do something that he thinks the other team isn't expecting, and it more or less backfires on us. And, you think about if we're playing in the NFC Championship game and we're in that crucial moment, we're going down the field early, and we literally come away with 0 points because we get out of the formula. You run the ball well, stick with that. Don't try and, okay, now we're going to throw this play action on first down. And I get it. Sam could have thrown the ball away. The play was there. There's a million and one things. Protect yourself from those type of mistakes in those games, because those can be the difference between going to a Super Bowl and potentially winning it and being out of the playoffs because of small things like that. Like, again, football is, in my opinion, a game that comes down to 4 or 5 plays throughout a game that'll determine if you win or lose if you come out on the majority of those. Plays like that, where you come away with nothing, can sometimes be one of those situations where that could end up costing you in the long run. So that's my Achilles heel. It's not that I don't like Klint Kubiak. It's not that I think Klint Kubiak, it's just a small part of Klint this season is where I kind of go, that's that small little Achilles heel.
Next time I'll go diagonal. We'll start with you. But I kind of like Mookie going last, because no matter what the rest of us say, he always has something in that giant brain of his that can trump us all. Mookie, what do you got?
That's why I have all the hair, the afro kind of conceals my head.
Very, very short hair.
Yes. Well, luckily, as long the Seahawks have stressed me out so infrequently this year that I'm not increasing the number of gray hairs that I already have. But anyway, the strength I see out of the Seahawks team, I know, is balance. But what I mean by that is there is only one team in the playoffs right now that has a top 10 offense by DVOA, top 10 defense, top 10 special teams. That's the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah. Seahawks are 10th in offense, so they're just on the precipice there. First in defense, Second in special teams. Believe it or not, the team that's first is the New York Jets. So not everything went poorly for them this year. I know Seattle's offense kind of fell off toward the back end of the season, but they're still a good unit, and the running game improving the way it has, I think, can offset some of the lack of explosives that we're seeing in the passing game. And it's not to say that they can't return to being an explosive passing offense again, but it's just that I think that defenses might have figured a thing or two out of how to limit that. But this defense is fantastic. Balance really gets you a long way, and that's what happened with the Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl in 2013. They had a top 10 of everything. Offense, defense, special teams, and the offense was impressive given how many different offensive linemen they had to start that year. There's only one other team with a top 10 in everything by DVOA, and believe it or not, it's the Detroit Lions, who are not in the playoffs. So we don't have to worry about them. Now, my worry, I'm going to echo what Brandon said. It is the turnovers, and it's the timeliness of the turnovers because it has cost Seattle in every game. The San Francisco game, you fumble in San Francisco territory. JSN did that, and then you fumble in the red zone, which is what happened when Abe Lucas got driven into Donald's lap. Game over. The Tampa Bay game, silly Jalen Milroe pitch play to Kenneth Walker, not executed well, takes away at least a field goal opportunity. Tampa Bay gets a touchdown the other way, and then at the end of the game, Donald has the tip ball interception. Game over. And then the Rams game, self-explanatory. 4 picks by Darnold. 2 of them led to short fields and touchdowns. Another loss. So they're going to have to clean that up. Now, they had no turnovers against the 49ers this last game, but it wasn't without the scare of Jalen Sundell tripping Sam Darnold and Zach Charbonnet thankfully recovering that fumble. Yeah. It would have been charged to Darnold, which would have been, of course, harsh, but still, fumble's a fumble, and this team does fumble pretty much every week. So do I trust Darnold to not have another 3-4 interception game like he did against the Rams? I think so. I mean, he's had one of those games. But as far as the ball security, that's on not just Sam. That's on everybody. Barner and JSN in particular fumble multiple times. And even basically the running back position is the only position where I'm comfortable with the ball security of Kanan and Charbonnet. So, yeah, just be better with the ball because we've seen that's the difference between winning and losing, whether in the regular season or the playoffs.
Yeah, I think for mine, I'll try and keep them as brief as I can. My reason that I think they can win it all is a little bit more kind of big picture, psychological. They just the vibe, the spirit this team has about themselves right now. It's such a great mix of youth and veteran leadership that was brought in over this last offseason. And I think when you put young talent together with the belief that you can beat anybody on any day, that's a powerful, powerful formula. And we see the flip side of that. We see teams that are established, have been around a little bit longer, that doubt creeps in. I kind of think that might be what's happening with the Rams right now because there's really no other way to explain them losing 2 of their last 3 games after looking like the best team in the league through the first 11, 12 weeks of the season. And then the thing that makes me doubt they can win it, I'm going to go with Bryce on this one. I still don't trust Kubiak 100% in big pressure moments to make the right call. The decision to not run the football from the 1 on that first drive was just absolutely inexcusable. If this organization's history from their 1-yard line wasn't,
I was going to ask if you had some PTSD on that, man. I was
brutal enough. And it's not, but even this staff can remember being in New York last year. And what would they have 7 cracks at it from the inside the 5 and they couldn't get it in. This team's built for that. And they were gashing them in the run game on that first drive. You want to make a statement and establish yourselves and respect my authority. Like your first drive, you ram it down their throats from the 1. Even if they stuff it, fine. It's the intention behind it. And it's the identity piece of it that I think is important to me. And I just think that's kind of the hurdle that he needs to get over. On that subject.
I want to just add one thing to it quickly, Dan, with that point. Where has Charbonnet got most of his touchdowns this year out of the double digit that tied a Seahawk record?
Yeah.
Pretty much inside the 10-yard line with a solid goal line back. Why turn away from that and decide we're going to throw it now when we're on the 1-yard line? 2, you also have probably one of the best tush pushes right now in the NFL with AJ Barner.
Right.
That's where, for me, like, where does your brain go to, I'm going to now decide to throw it? And I've heard some people say, oh, they're putting on film for other teams. That's getting cute. Just get the ball in the damn end zone.
And I'll add another one. Robbie Utes is finally becoming Robbie Utes. Like, he's on the field more. He's getting more snaps. He's blowing people up, and he was on the field for that play. Like, it just made no sense. Thankfully, they survived. We're not talking about that.
Can I add one more on this too? Yeah. Can we please retire pick plays at the goal line in perpetuity?
Yes.
I
Yes.
never want to see another pick play at the goal line. You talk about PTSD from the not running it, and then that play two plays later, I just about crawled under my desk and started seeing like flashbacks, man. Like it never works. Even when it works, we get called for a flag on it. Like when it works, we end up getting called for the rub route, and they end up going that the guy. It never freaking works. Let's stop with it. Just no more.
It does feel like we get called for the most OPI on pick plays, and we get beat by it the most. Maybe that's just our own perception, but that's kind of the way it
they can run over our guys. Dan, to your point on that, they can freaking steamroll our guys on the rub side of it, but our guys like blow on their dudes, and it's like, here it comes. It's like, okay,
Bryce, I got a quick coaching question for you on that the throw attempt to Charbonnet on the first and goal. A lot of people are calling that spider 2Y banana, but isn't the fullback the intended receiver in a true spider 2Y banana?
So that's widow. So you have spider and you have widow, and the difference is the roles of the running back and the fullback. So in spider, the fullback chips, gets to the flat, the running back then assumes the block. You usually slide left with that kind of. In this case, you're running widow, which means now your fullback is full on blocking and your running back is now leaking out like Charbonnet did. The problem in that situation with doing that is your line again is all sliding left. And if someone leaks through or gets across face, that's where you run into problems. And yes, like theoretically, Sam has two options there. And again, I'll put a little bit of the actual play execution on Sam. Throw the ball away. Just fire it through the back of the stands, right into the first 49er that you see and hit him in the face. Like, you're not going to get a penalty for, intentional grounding or anything because of where you're located on the field. But again, to go to that, like if you go with, and again, this is where I talk about getting out of your own way. You run so much with Charbonnet there, it makes sense to fake to Charbonnet and have him in and leak out a Robbie Oots into the flat than it does to have Charbonnet literally go straight out to the flat as he did in that play, because teams are going to go, oh, again, that's something different. It's like when we put Charbonnet and Walker on the same field in Carolina and we're like, yeah, we're not going to hand the ball to Charbonnet. We're going to run some weird reverse here. Like, they try to be cute, but they don't follow their own principles in being cute, if that makes sense.
Well, on that subject, we're going to give you some more time to talk about Klint, because I promised I'd go to you first on the next one, even though it's not diagonal now, but we'll skip down 3 spots. Klint Kubiak is all the rage right now. There's 8 head coaching openings. He has now been scheduled, or either has interviewed or is being interviewed by 6 of the 8. Baltimore today. I think Raiders was today as well. They're the latest to be added to the list. All right, Bryce, we'll start with you. And give me a 1 through 10, and then your justification for it. Stress level about the potential of losing Kubiak, because for everything I've said about why I think he probably wouldn't be the most appealing candidate out there when it comes to interviews, 6 out of 8, when there aren't a lot of offensive candidates in this pool, the odds don't look great right now. So your 1 through 10 stress level, and then your justification for it.
9.5 out of 10. I think he's gone. Personally, I think he's going to take a head coaching job, whether it's Atlanta. I think it's probably the front runner there, especially if they don't get a Stefanski or a Harbaugh. I think those are the 2 dominoes to fall now. And then I think Clint's gone. And the reason I say that is, to your point, the more teams that got added to this, Dan, this pool of open.
And there could be more.
There could be more, right? You never know.
Yeah.
And the lack of offensive-minded coaches to pull from is why I think he right now looks like the golden goose, is kind of the way it's looked. Like Stefanski's there and we get that. He's got the head, but he's, you got that. But then outside of Stefanski, who are you turning to as the next offensive-minded guy? Because Joe Brady hasn't got nearly the amount of buzz I think a lot of us thought he was going to get.
I think he just got his first interview.
Right. He just got his first interview. Klint, I think part of it is name. The Kubiak name, it's jumping onto the Shanahan and the McVay style of offense, which now he's the first one, I think, in some respects, outside of Kevin O'Connell, that people have seen it where it's been sustainable over multiple places. He's now gone. Minnesota, the offense is pretty good. And the other thing with him, the quarterbacking. You look at what he's done with Kirk Cousins when he was with Kirk in Minnesota. Then you look at what he's done with Derek Carr to a point when he was in New Orleans. Like, he's got some track record of quarterbacks. So teams that want to develop a young quarterback, again, is Klint. The one thing that makes my stress level even higher about Klint, yes, it sucks to lose the play caller and the offensive coordinator. I'm more worried of the ripple effect within the coaching staff. I'm more worried about losing a John Benton, a Rick Dennison, a Outen, Janoko, and all these other pieces that are involved. That's what worries me more because of how good our offensive line looked this year from where it's looked in the past. Yes, that's a Klint Kubiak thing, but it's also the coaching they got from Outen and Dennison and John Benton. And that's what I'm worried is he goes, we lose another, and we're searching not just for a new OC, but a whole staff of offensive coaches.
I
and
feel
Jake
like
Peetz has now got an interview.
Yeah, I saw that today. I feel like with the process, the intentionality with which they went about it, how much McDonald wanted to lean into the scheme and commit to it, I think they're blocking those guys. If Kubiak gets a job elsewhere, they're just not going to let him take all those other guys that are under contract, assuming that those guys didn't sign 1-year deals. I think the Seahawks would be pretty aggressive in trying to keep some of those guys. Mookie, where you at?
I'm, as far as stress level, I think I'm about a 6 out of 10 right now. I'm not all the way there yet, if only because we have recent precedent of a known or a rising offensive coordinator who was interviewed by all these teams and opted to stay with his team. Now, he got fired the next year, but the point remains, all these interviews didn't necessarily translate to a hire. And that's Bobby Slowick from the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
And Slowick was interviewed by Seattle during Schneider's coaching search after Pete was gone. So I think he got 5 interviews, and then he opted to stay because Houston gave him a big raise, and he stayed on, and then the offense regressed, and he got canned, and he went to Miami. And guess what? He's free again, folks. Now that McDaniel's gone. So there is that possibility that Kubiak, just because he's got all these interviews, doesn't mean A, he interviews well, or B, that he's absolutely going to be taking a head coaching job. I can understand the concern because more jobs open up than I thought. And I think a couple of things have kind of affected this. Baltimore losing the way they did and Harbaugh getting canned. And then Miami, maybe because they have interest in Harbaugh, deciding to fire McDaniel when it looked like he was going to be safe. So we got 8 vacancies right now, maybe a 9th or 10th, depending on what happens with, say, Buffalo or even Green Bay, because LaFleur's contract hasn't been extended yet. So I think one other thing when it comes to Kubiak that is a legit concern is if he does go, all the people that he could bring with him. So that's just to follow up on Bryce's point. He could take Dennison and Outen and all those guys, and then we got to start anew with an offensive coaching staff again, which figures the one time that we don't want a coordinator fired. We're not used to this. Like there's been one time ever that the Seahawks have had an offensive coordinator go to another team while under contract, and that's Mike Sherman after 1 year with Holmgren, and Holmgren called the plays, so Sherman was with Green Bay prior to that.
Yeah.
Went to Seattle with Holmgren, and they went back to Green Bay. So that's kind of sort of like nobody cared too much. Mike Sherman was the offensive coordinator. This is different. Kubiak's produced results. As much as we just voiced some of our frustrations with him and the staff have been the best for Seattle in a long time. But with all that said, I'm not sure that he's a lock to take a head coaching job. And it could also depend on how far Seattle goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he wins the Super Bowl, if Seattle wins the Super Bowl, maybe he just decides, all right, I've done my part here. Let me go be a head coach. If it all falls apart and they don't make the Super Bowl, similar to, like, say, Ben Johnson in the NFC Championship game against Detroit, he's stuck on for 1 more year, then maybe that's a situation where he gets convinced to stay again. But it is certainly interesting times for the Seahawks offensive coaching staff to be in this much demand. No offense to Adam Dirty and his Cleveland Browns interview, but I sense a bit of Rooney Rule with that one. I don't think he's going to be a head coach just yet. But, we're probably going to be looking at a lot of Seahawks offensive assistants this offseason, maybe in danger of getting poached. I don't even put it past the defensive assistants like Carl Scott, too, to be possible defensive coordinators. So get ready for the brain drain of sorts for the Seahawks coaching staff. All the more reason to go win it all this year.
It's one of the unintended consequences of winning. Everybody wants to steal a little bit of what you have, right? Brandon, where are you at?
It's actually worse than where you guys are at, unfortunately. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this one, but to the point on Slowick, which is fine, and Ben Johnson's another one that gets kind of mentioned as a guy that sort of turned down the head coaching job. I always like to say on this stuff, you don't want to go to the anomaly or the outlier. If you go and you see a coordinator like this that's got 5-6 guys, 6 teams coming at him just right now at the front of this, it's more likely than not that guy's getting a head coaching job. It does not tend to be one that they don't when there's so many teams. It just takes one team. I think that's going to happen in this circumstance, considering the examples we have historically of this kind of situation playing out. I do also think that when you look at historically speaking, to your point on this, Dan, you don't get to keep the staff. They're going to go with them. You make the offensive line coach here an assistant head coach, and bingo bango, you can pull them out of the contract. There tends to be ways to pull this along. I think it's a little different when you're taking a defensive coordinator like McDonald was with the Ravens, and it was more about that Ravens organization established. You couldn't pull as many of coaches from that. But I just don't think that that's going to be an impediment. And why I say that this is worse is because the late.
You can't give them all a new title. Some of those
you can't, but I think that you'll end up seeing them allow him to release. It's more of like, rather than it being that you don't have them under contract, it's more about the tendencies of teams. As if a coach like that who brought those guys in, you didn't have those coaches established here, and then he came in, he brought those coaches with him. I think that there would be a general way that you'd see in NFL history that those guys would then go with him when he went out. Maybe not all of them, but you're going to lose a good number of them with them. And why I say I think that this is worse is because of, just like Mookie said, this is going to be a late process and a late hour. You cannot interview a coach in person until the team is out of the playoffs. This is what we ran into with McDonald. So maybe you can see where I'm going with this, Dan, where everybody likes Mike McDaniel on this, but there's all these teams right now, they're looking for OCs. They're going to hire their head coaches potentially while we're still in the playoffs going through the run. Yeah. That means that, like we ran into the same situation a couple of years ago, we see Kubiak with a team that's like, man, we love him. Really like him. We just need that final in-person interview to seal it up. They get that final in-person. He clears it. You go into like a Super Bowl run. Now you look at the candidates that are available across the board, and there's nobody as viable as what Klint was this year. You're back to the same circumstances that led you into having to go down with Ryan Grubb. I don't think you'll make that same mistake again, but I think that that's why this has me more up in like a 9-8 kind of place as far as the worry goes, because that's where I see this really trending in a real way at this point.
Those are great points. I'm going to go more in the 5-6 range for a couple of reasons. I do think, while to your point, he'll find a way to take some guys with him. I think the Seahawks will fight tooth and nail to keep John Benton. I think they've struggled for so long to fix that offensive line, and it's finally showing signs of legitimate improvement. He only has 1 year of history with Klint Kubiak. It's not like this is some tight relationship that goes back over decades. He's going to go wherever Klint goes. I think the Seahawks would fight really hard to try and keep him. But I also feel, for the first time in forever, really, that I can remember, and I count Dave Canales in this because I just didn't know what we had at the point, because he never even got a shot to call plays here. I feel like there's answers in-house. I feel like Andrew Janocko or Justin Outen would be an excellent candidate to take over the job and keep some continuity. And Jake Peets, if he stays in-house, if he doesn't get the job that he's interviewing for, or if any more prop up. Although I find it interesting that he wasn't even interviewed last year, wasn't even given consideration to get the OC job, even though he was already in-house. So I do think there are some answers in-house should that happen. I also think that of the current openings, I think the teams that I feel like are the best fit for Klint Kubiak aren't going to want to wait. They're going to want to get their answer, move forward, get the fan base energized. And he's not the kind of coach you hire to energize a fan base. He's the kind of coach you hire for his brain and his schematic history, and then you try to sell that to the fans, because he's not going to blow you away on press conference introduction day. The one wild card here, and we mentioned earlier, there might be a couple other openings. There's some speculation that if Sean McDermott doesn't win this weekend, he might be out in Buffalo, and Matt LaFleur may want out, or it might be mutual. There's been rumblings of that all season long. If the Packers were to lose in the first round, I think the Packers would be a really, really good fit for Kubiak. Not only scheme similarity, but Matt LaFleur's not a dynamic guy. He doesn't blow anybody away with personality. It's kind of like the culture of that area up there, right? And that community. It's just like a little more understated. I feel like Kubiak could be a really, really smart fit up there in Green Bay, and the timeline would fit because they might be more willing to wait because they have a little more stability. So.
A couple of things real quick, Dan, just with it. Gary Kubiak, Ben have a real rich history, so it goes back more than just the stop there with those two guys. Ben's the likely guy to be gone. Above all the other coaches on the staff, he's the guy that will go with Clinton. That's the main guy we don't want to go, to the points you mentioned on that. The one thing I want to ask you on this, because this is something that's brought up with a lot of people that I've spoken to that have a lot of confidence in this, and I'm curious where the confidence comes from. Mm-hmm. In the internal of, we're going to internally promote a guy, and we're going to internally promote a guy that's never called plays at an NFL level before. And that's going to be a good road to go down for this team. I'm kind of wanting to be sold on this a little bit, because I look at that and I go, man, there are so many pitfalls to me within making that choice. Ones we've kind of learned hard lessons upon. Why would we want to go down that road once again?
Because I expect them to win at least a game in the playoffs and make that timeline more difficult for whoever hires them, in which case you're looking at a pool of candidates that haven't called plays anyway. Primarily, when you look at the dearth of offensive candidates that are even being considered for head coaching jobs right now, there aren't going to be that many guys out there that are established, legitimate, successful play callers that are going to last until the Seahawks are out of the playoffs anyway. So I think you're looking kind of in that same bucket to begin with is kind of where my thinking comes on that. If the Seahawks lose next week, then, and Kubiak gets hired, then I think the oyster opens and there's a lot more pearls in there and a lot more guys you can choose from. And in that case, I think we could probably be pretty aggressive going after the best guy out there, because I think we have a pretty good situation to present, I would think.
Can I add one more caveat to this about why I think this is also a detriment to Seattle if losing Klint Kubiak and potential other coaches? As much as I love what Sam Darnold has done this year, Sam Darnold has done the best in this style of system, right? We saw it with Kevin O'Connell. We've now seen it with Klint Kubiak. You also need to think of whoever you bring in does not depart greatly from what this philosophy is and these style of plays and that type of thing, because then you're throwing a wrench in that whole situation where you've got a guy that's comfortable with it, and then all of a sudden you go to a quote-unquote Ryan Grubb air raid style or those type of things. There's a rhythm and a thing to this that fits what your quarterback does. So to Brandon's point, you lose Klint Kubiak, and now your box of what you're picking from is real slim because there aren't a lot of guys out there that run this West Coast style. And that's where, like, for me, like, Zach Robinson becomes a guy, and I know it's scary to people because he was in Atlanta and their offense was so bad, but again, familiarity with this style of offense, but he's not a flashy name. And this is where, you look at the internal options with Jake Peets and Janoko and Outen. They've, especially Outen and Peets, they have called games at the NFL level, admit it being half seasons or whatnot. But it's a scary thing. That's why, like, I'm with Brandon at that being at like 9.5, 10 of like Kubiak's probably gone, but it's the other implications. And it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, like, who are you left with if he does go? Because Dennison, again, like Benton, close with the Kubiak family and his dad, Gary. So those two are probably both out of there. And he brought Outen in because of their time in Denver. Like, it's a scary thing to think about. Like, yeah, we could win a Super Bowl, but how much does it? Again, the Super Bowl is winning the ultimate prize, but where does this set our franchise back a bit because of the success we've had and the lack of offensive-minded guys in this year's coaching pool?
Yeah, I see all that. I at the end of the day, if I'm going to stake my flag on anything, I don't think he gets one of these jobs. I just don't. I don't think he's going to interview impressively. I think the Seahawks are going to make a deep run, and other candidates are out there, and he's not going to move an organization enough to make them want to wait until the Seahawks are done with their playoff run. And then, maybe next year is a different story. He's never gotten a chance to prove back-to-back with the same organization that he can do it successfully or even make a leap. He's shown he can take a new offense and get him up to speed quickly. We saw that last year in New Orleans before the injury, certainly. And that's appealing on its own. But I just feel like maybe it's wishful thinking. But I think we're safe for another year with Kubiak. Let's do this because we do have to be out by 9 tonight, East Coast time. Sorry, guys, by 6 your time. I have to communicate that differently. Let's do this real quick. Give a shout out to our sponsor, Sleeper, and then we'll be back with your questions and comments up next on Seahawks Syndicate.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code FOREVER. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Now, let me do this first. It showed my promo code there, but Brandon, they also sponsor your channel, The Hawk's Nest. If the folks out there want to give you credit for signing up, what's the promo code they should use for yours?
NEST, Nest.
NEST, there you go. How long did it take you to come up with that one?
Man, I had to burn the midnight oil thinking that went up.
Let's do some questions, comments. We got a super chat in here from Brentioendo. Did I nail that on the first try? $5 donation. Really appreciate that. They need to not allow interviews till after playoffs. It has potential to ruin vibes going into games we still need to win. They have tightened these rules up significantly over the last few years. It used to be kind of the wild, wild west, and now only teams that have a bye, their coaches can interview, and then nobody can talk to our guys again until the 26th if we continue to play.
I think they should shut it all the way down too. I agree with them. You shut it all the way down.
Yeah.
These teams should be punished for having to fire a coach for not making right hires. They shouldn't be rewarded on that. Or they got to get ahead of their process. I don't care about your process. Don't punish good teams because you have been bad, and that's what it does.
Does it say more about the quality of coaches available or about the wisdom or lack of wisdom of these organizations that are moving on from coaches so quickly? And then those coaches are immediately getting a plethora of other interviews. Mike McDaniel immediately lining up interviews. Raheem Morris has 2 or 3 interviews already just being let go by Atlanta. Stefanski, of course, in big demand. Harbaugh could go anywhere he wants to go. Is it the pool, or is it these teams are just dumb and this is why bad teams stay bad? I'll let anyone take that.
Some teams are dumb, but I think they could tweak the rule that if you interview, you can be free to interview somebody who's out of contract. So like Harbaugh and Stefanski, you can take any team you want. But for guys under contract, I think they should change that rule even more. But yeah, it is unfortunate because it is a distraction. Let's face it. It is a distraction because there's really no other sport I can think of where they're interviewing assistants in the middle of a team's playoff run. So that's the sucky thing I think about all of this is how quickly teams want to jump on their offseason while impacting teams who are still having their seasons go on.
It's another thing I think that plays into this Kubiak formula is I think he's a very cerebral, thoughtful decision maker. And you look around at some of these teams that have fired their coaches and how unstable they are. I don't think he's a kind of guy that's just going to take the first job offered to him. I think he's going to take an opportunity he feels good about. One of these could be that, but just about every one of them.
That's a fat guaranteed contract,
right? What's that?
That's a fat guaranteed contract you're turning down in that turn down.
Oh, for sure. It's about a $9 million a year difference at the low end of what head coaches make these days. It's
more than that. It's a fully guaranteed it's like a $525 fully guaranteed versus the $800,000 you're making as an assistant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they all take the deals. We come back to it's very unusual for these guys to turn this stuff down because who would in that situation? It's like you're thinking it's ideally you're right. Think about the team. I don't think that even with the guy that's as smart as this guy, that really factors in when you're looking at that check in your fingers and it's got 25 and all of those zeros on the end of it and you're knowing it's fully guaranteed.
Yeah. There's a lot of love in the comments for Mike McDaniel. He obviously would be a perfect fit as an OC for a million reasons, but I think he's going to get one of these jobs. I thought when he was first let go, he has such a quirky, unusual personality. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but the fact that he's already stacking up interviews, I think, and the lack of offensive candidates in this group, I think he's going to get one of those jobs.
He isn't getting the Washington job because that's already been signed, sealed, and delivered now, the Washington OC position.
Did they make a hire today?
They hired David Blau.
Oh, they did. Wow. Talk about outside the box.
Yeah.
The former Purdue quarterback.
Detroit was apparently interested in bringing him back.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. Interesting. I want to put this up there just to give ourselves a little pat on the back, but I don't think they know what they're saying in the same process. Addicted to Hawk says, if I could make a bet in Vegas, I would bet Seahawks Syndicate surpasses NFC West Roundtable in subscribers by week 3 to 5 next year. Great show. Well, we don't have our own channel, so we can't surpass them in subscribers. But that's Brandon's show too. You're
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, man. It's all good as long as we're watching. I don't care where you guys are watching. As long as y'all are watching, that'd be great with me. And I agree. I think the future is really bright for the Syndicate and what we could do here. And we're going to be doing. Got the guys to agree. We're going to be doing all 3 days of the draft after we get through the Senior Bowl and all that. So be looking forward to that, and we'll give you guys some kick-ass coverage with that too.
Yeah, we'll keep rolling through with monthly episodes at least through the off season. And then it's a good time to mention, for those of you who don't know, that we are all going to be in Mobile, not physically for Mookie, but we'll pipe him in virtually if we can. We'll just make it happen. But we're going to go spend the 3 of us will be spending the whole weekend down there, the whole week, watching all the practices, talking to some of the kids down there, and getting a feel for this draft class. Really like what we see from the accepted invites so far, except for the quarterback class, right, Bryce?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not. The quarterback class that's going to be a dud.
Yeah, every year there's guys that turn down invitations that I think don't make sense. There's some guys I'd like to see there that haven't agreed yet. We'll see if that changes. Let's go to this one, guys. Had this one locked and loaded. This could be anything. It could be an aspect of, some aspect of what they do schematically, or it could be or it could be something totally intrinsic, right? We'll start with you, Bryce. Oh, hey, you guys are switched around in this view. Don't know what happened there. Must be the order I added you in. So we'll go your way, Bryce. You get your wish. Your favorite thing about this team could be anything.
I love the attitude and energy. We're bullies again. Like, that for me is the biggest thing here. We're not. We were bullies with the LOB. Then we had the post-LOB Russ Cook era where we kind of became a finesse team. I'm going to be honest. I felt we became a finesse football team. We're back to being, we're not afraid to punch anybody in the mouth and go toe-to-toe with you. And doesn't matter how dirty or mucky that game is, like, we're going to bully you with this defense. And that's probably my favorite thing about it, is this team just got a level of energy and grit to it that we haven't seen for a long time.
Brandon?
Man, it's the youth and the fact that this is just beginning. We were the I think the youngest roster in NFL history when we won the Super Bowl at the time we did 13 years ago. And we have the third youngest roster in the NFL right now. The fact that this is just starting to set the stage, and that potentially in John, you have a guy that can learn some lessons from that past dynastic-like run that almost was, to maybe correct some things and get it right this time. And that just, to me, I love where we're at, and I'm excited for this year's, the prospect of it. But man, even into the future, we've got a sustained team that should be great for a very long period of time.
Mookie, your thoughts?
This is something I've thought of. I've been kind of harping on for a while. These Seahawks are exciting. They're entertaining. I mean, sometimes entertaining teams aren't very good, and it is what it is. But they're entertaining and good. In fact, check that, entertaining and great. And what I mean by that is, even the last few Seahawks teams with Pete, I think the problem I had with them is they were a bit of a slog to watch, either through frustrations about the defense or frustrations of the offense, sometimes the scoring lows or the defense getting run over. Every aspect of this Seahawks team is entertaining, whether it's the players and their personalities, whether it's their style of play. First part of the season, they're going bombs away with Darnold to JSN. This back end of the year, suddenly you're getting the exciting, explosive runs again with K9 and Charbonnet, and they're giving you some of that physical, punishing running that we've been kind of been hoping to see again. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you want an exciting guy to look at as somebody who could be, as Corbin Smith said at Fast Fashion Brewery on our Syndicate show way back, Hall of Fame level player. Go look at Nicky Manwari. You want to see interceptions from your middle linebacker, Ernest Jones, you've got that. You want to see sacks from everybody on the defensive line, you've got it, whether it's Byron Murphy or Leonard Williams, or it's Chenna Nwosu on the edge with DeMarcus Lawrence. Even the special teams. Rashid Shaheed could go the distance any given moment. Before he got hurt, Torrey Horton could have been another guy as a dangerous returner. Jason Myers gave us a little bit too much entertainment last week, but still, he's killing it with his kickoffs, killing it with his field goals over the course of the season. I don't see a team that is – they're not boring in terms of their play style. They're not boring in terms of the roster. And the way that they win is so consistently fun to watch in a way that I haven't really enjoyed the Seahawks since the Legion of Boom days. So that's what I love about this team the most, is that they are must-see TV again.
Yeah, I think if I could boil it down to one specific thing, I agree with everything you guys have said. It's how violently they play within the rules. Like, they've cracked the code. They're out there delivering as big a hits consistently week in, week out than other teams in the league, and they're not getting flagged for it. There were a couple of hits in that San Francisco game. There was one early on, or second quarter, I think, where just as Purdy's throwing the football, Emin just lays him out. I think it forced an incompletion. It might have been one of the fourth down plays, if I'm remembering right. And as it was happening, I thought, oh, damn it. But he led with his shoulder. He targeted his sternum. He didn't put his body weight on him. Like, it was textbook teaching tape for how to lay a quarterback out as he's throwing the football. And then the last play of the game, when he gets high-load by Leonard Williams and who else was it on that?
Derek Hall.
Yeah, almost.
He gets his ragdoll. Brock gets some ragdoll
God.
animations going.
That's as violent a hit as you're going to see a quarterback ever take anymore in the NFL without a flag like that. And those things take their toll. You know, I've talked about this quite a bit on my show the last couple of weeks. Maybe we've mentioned it here on the Syndicate, but a couple of years ago, the Detroit Lions were that team. And every year there's kind of one of them where they take such a toll on you physically that you're not worth a damn the next week. And that the records of the teams of the teams that play them after they play the Lions that year weren't great. I feel like this is kind of what that Seahawks team has become. And maybe that shows up this weekend, tomorrow in Philadelphia with a 49ers team that is still recovering literally, physically from that game, and then has to go play another really physical team in Philadelphia. We got to be out by the top of the hour tonight, and so we won't be able to take as many questions as normal with you guys, but we do have a super chat here I need to get to. Where to go? I can remember how to use this stuff. Daniel W8620 says Bobby Slowick, he got short sticked in Houston. Yeah, we covered that. That was a strange case. He didn't even get another OC job. He's a quarterback coach somewhere, an offensive assistant, right? Thank you for the donation.
Yeah,
really appreciated that.
Star faded quick on that. Not sure why. It wasn't his fault they didn't build a competent offensive line in Houston.
Yeah, right.
He was with Miami, I think. So guess what? Everybody's free. Darrell Bevel's free to hire.
Hey, he was on that legendary, I think it was 2010 or 11 in Washington for the then Redskins, and it had all those guys on the same staff, right?
Yeah.
Slowick spent a season on that same staff too, as like an intern or assistant or something. I think he was like 12 years old at the time. Addicted to Hawk says, Mobile, Alabama. Do you guys all have a big bag of Red Man or some other brand of chew for spitting when you're there? Teasing, kind of.
That's how you scout. That's how you scout. It's that or Zen. You got to have one of the two in your mouth at all times. You're scouting, and a big wad at that, so you can really look the part.
I'll tell you the best part about Mobile is Alabama costs of living. Like, we've looked at going out to a nice dinner one of the nights we're there, and I'm like, it's a palatial, like top of the view, panoramic view restaurant. It's supposed to be the nice place in town. We're looking at the menu. We're like, that I can get a filet for that. So looking forward to that, boys. Brenty Oendo, Atlanta and Titans kind of scare me with Klint having an affinity for the South, being closer to home and nice weather, but the other teams don't seem like the ones he'd immediately commit to. I feel like the quarterback situation would play a big part in his decision-making. Atlanta's tricky. I mean, we don't know what to make really of Michael Penix yet. How far along is he in his recovery, and with all the injuries, is he as mobile, or will he be as Kubiak likes his quarterbacks to be? Titans is interesting because we love Cam Ward, right, Bryce?
Oh yeah, love Cam Ward. I will say this: I think the Falcons are more enticing to Kubiak because he doesn't have to press Penix back into playing. He knows what he's got with Cousins, regardless of the mobility factor or whatnot. He knows
I don't think he's going to be there though. They just redid that deal, but
if Klint comes in and they go with Klint, and part of Klint's thing is I want to have a guy that knows my system to at least get it off the ground.
Yeah,
that might make Atlanta a little bit more enticing to him because you've got.
He was his OC in Minnesota.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And you've got Bijan Robinson and that running game that's there. You've got some of those. They've just I think, to me, if I was to rank the Klint Kubiak opportunities, I think Atlanta's number one.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, but maybe this is a curveball. I haven't confirmed this since this comment came in 6 minutes ago. But if this is true, if Atlanta is looking for someone they can lowball, well, if he's making $1.5 million or $2 million from the Seahawks, maybe they sweeten the pot, come back with a little bit of a raise. If Atlanta's looking to lowball someone, then it's not as simple, maybe, at least in that case, Brandon, of what you're talking about, where it's just too much money, life-changing type money to turn down. If that's the way Atlanta thinks they're going to approach this coaching cycle, they should have probably kept Raheem Morris. And I couldn't believe they let him go as early as they did anyway, because finally, after years and years and years of trying to put some pieces together on defense, they've had a couple of really cool drafts there. They've got some young dudes with speed. They're threatening guys in the pass rush. It just seemed like really odd timing to let.
Well, I think too, there's a variance at play here. Mike McDonald at the same coaching high cycle there got a 550, right? So he's making $10 million a year. Harbaugh's asking for $20 million a year right now, reportedly. So this is also inflation prices coming in ahead. And while it might be only $4 million, it's also the multi-year aspect of the deal and the fact that coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. So let's just say it's a 416. You're $16 million versus $750,000 on a 2-year deal. And I'm not sure the assistant contracts are guaranteed necessarily.
Yeah.
That's a big difference as far as, and you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity back for the $16 million swing next year. It sounds nice in theory that you will, but we were just talking about Bobby Slowick. Go ask him about that. Go ask Monken, who in that same cycle of Slowick being this hot to trot guy was the same guy that also looked like he was on the same path. So neither of those guys may not even have an OC job, much less head coaching opportunity now going into the future. And that's where I come back to I just think, and maybe I'm being a hard ass on this, but I just think that ends up being ultimately the driving force in these decisions more than, is it the right landing spot? Is it the perfect destination? Do I have all the right pieces in place? Would I be served a better another year to wait? I just think that all goes out the window at that point when they look at that money and they go, yeah, that's generational wealth. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, easy for me to say that 1.5 million to 4 million is not that big of a difference, right?
Well, and that 4-year deal, it's like it's 16. It ain't 4, then it's 16. Because I guarantee you, Raheem didn't sign a 1-year deal. Yeah. He signed probably a 3 to 4 year contract, and 5 years seems to be the standing rate for coaches when you sign to a contract. Now, I think Pete got a 5-year as well. That's why they're paying him $40 million now as he's walking out the door.
Not a bad little retirement package for Pete.
Not a bad golden parachute. Yeah. Not bad at all.
3 years with a team option for it. I think we should all apply for the Raiders gig, because there's nothing I would love more than to get hired, earn millions of dollars, and then get fired and not have to worry about money for the rest of time, because they will be paying me for years to do nothing.
I think there's some coaches playing like 3 guys, Mookie. There's some team I think that's got like 3 guys still on the hook that they're rolling through because of that. I forget which one, but there's somebody out there I want to say that is going through.
Well, the Raiders are the team that's got Antonio Pierce. They've got John Gruden. They've got Pete Carroll,
McDaniels
too.
Oh,
and Chip Kelly. They've got 5 there, Brandon. They went over.
Geez.
That's where the Raiders are at. They're like paying out.
Good thing that move to Vegas has Mark Davis flush with cash for the first time in his.
Now, Tom Brady's going to be the Michael Jordan of owners
in Arizona. Yeah, I was reading about this earlier today. Arizona, I think, is paying.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing too. Yeah, because Wilkes and Kingsbury and Gannon now. But what? Here's one thing I just want to talk about on that Raiders story quickly before we get out of here. That whole story about Pete's kid, as the O-line coach, that is nuts to me. And apparently that goes back to why John almost left in 2017 when he was looking at the Detroit job, was because of the amount that Pete's kids were involved in what was going on. And John was like, this needs to stop. And then kind of they were like, no, you get the draft back, John. You get this back to stay. We'll minimize some of this. But now you look at what his kid did there, where your general manager is having meetings with your linemen to help them go through film. Like, what are we talking about?
That's insane. That is insane. I'm glad you brought up Zach Robinson earlier. I think he'd be my favorite guy. Maybe
he's my number one right now.
Same coaching tree, and he got a 2,000-yard all-purpose season out of Bijan Robinson. He finally unlocked Kyle Pitts. He got a big year out of Drake London, even though he missed some games, and that was with a uncertain quarterback situation. So I think I'm surprised he's not getting. Like yeah. So, all right, guys, we got to run. We will be back. We're sorry for keeping it so short this week, but plenty of long, rambling Seahawks Syndicate episodes in the future, because we're here to stay, and we're going to come back every week now through the playoffs. And then when we head down to Mobile, Alabama, it's going to be every day. So you're going to get sick of us. I'll tell you that right now. Guys, we try to do this every week, and we kind of suck at it. So we're gonna get this down. We should practice this before we go live, maybe. But first of all, the cadence. Let's do it like this. Go Hawks. So it's like that, right? Go Hawks. You got that down? We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then say it on what would be 4. We're gonna go Lethal Weapon style. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Hawks. No. Okay.
Not even close.
We're close.
We're gonna work on that.
It's almost there.
We're going to work on that. Thank you guys all for watching. A bunch of you in here. It's been spread out throughout our 3 channels. That's me, Brandon, and Bryce. Be sure to subscribe to whoever you're not subscribed to. If you aren't at the moment, support us all. It's the best way you can support our channels. And then Mookie, the managing editor of Field Goals. It's the best website out there for staying abreast of everything going on with the Seahawks news and analysis. Guys,
quick update. Give me one upset, guys. One upset from this weekend's wild card action.
Oh, Dan. Okay. I like the Packers in the 7-2 matchup against the Bears.
Mine too.
I really do. I
Yeah,
think quarterback, I
Packers.
think assuming Jordan Love can play there, I like him in this one, and I think it's too soon. Too soon for Caleb. Not ready for the moment.
Triple
Right.
doink Packers game-winning field goal.
Triple.
I'm
hit
on
the
the quad.
uprights,
I'm on the quad.
other
I
upright
see it the same
crossbar and
way.
through.
Okay. So it'll be Packers Seahawks if we're all right next week. But the best way to get ready for that will be to join us again next week for the Seahawks Syndicate. We don't have any theme music or anything to play us out. So we're just going to say good night. Thanks, everybody.